strive to enter through the narrow gate. How do we enter through the narrow gate, brothers? We might rephrase the question, how do we live God's will? Aren't they one and the same? How do we enter through the narrow gate? Two brief ideas on that, both from experiences in the last week. Was at a cafe, Italian cafe called Tosca Italian Cafe, not too far from where Dave and I and Anthony live. And enters in, I'm having a cappuccino, trying to do some of my doctoral studies for an hour or so, and walks in a gentleman, really tall, big young adult guy, probably in his early 20s, all dressed in black. All black, and has a t-shirt on that has like the words violence written across it. And very imposing gentleman. He's a young man, he walks in, and very quiet, like, okay, Lord, who is this? Or like, what's his story? But anyway, he comes and sits down right in front of me, like with his back to me. And almost immediately, I get the sense, emotion inside says, pray for him. Pray for him. Like, okay, Lord, I don't know what you want, I don't know what your will is here, but I started to say a little prayer for him and did a little, just kind of hidden little blessing without barely lifting my hand off the table. And literally, within 5 seconds of doing that, almost immediately, he turns around and says, Father, can I talk to you? And that began a 1-hour conversation about his life, and he was discerning something in his will and trying to figure out God's will in his life. Prayer, brothers. We do it here, right? It's part of our daily bread, so to speak, to pray, to make time. I would just encourage us in knowing in God's will, entering through the narrow gate, we need to pray. We need to go to the Lord and ask and seek. And sometimes, a lot of times, he'll inspire you to pray for someone or to pray for a situation. And if you do it, you never know what's behind that door, but he'll open the door and do amazing things. Prayer is, I recommend, first thing. Second thing, and the other thing, you may not catch this, you may not think this off the top, but at the Lumen Summit, when Sister Petrini was talking, the head of who helps run Vatican City State, we were talking, and the question just kind of naturally came up, well, so, what'd you do when you found out the Pope wanted you to take on this role of leading Vatican City, basically, running the operations, overseeing all the stuff? And she very quickly, very, very right away remarked, I basically wanted to make sure I could live my community life, in a role that's going to require a lot of travel, long hours, being out of community a lot. I wanted to make sure I could live my community life. For her, that was God's will, to be in community. She's a Franciscan. In fact, Legionaries go to help, I believe, over the years, the Franciscans here. She knows about us because she was here in the Cheshire area. Has good memories of Legionaries coming to celebrate Mass. But the point, brothers, again, is community life. For now, maybe you take it for granted a little bit. All of us did when we were here, or in the novitiate, or in humanities. The day will come probably, though, when you're on internship or when you're as a priest and you're ministering, and you're going to have to fight for community life. And you probably know that already. You can get out of community life so much and easily if you try. Even here, you can find ways, right? And we've probably all done it. But when you're out there, that's where the conviction comes. I want to be in community. I go out in his name and in the name of Christ, in the name of the community, and then I come back because I want to be back. I want to seek to be with my brothers. I want to be in family. That really impressed me about her, someone who travels the world and has such great responsibility. I invite you, brothers, to, if you want to know God's will, for a legionary, being in community is part of our vocation, and it always will be as a religious. So put those roots down deep because that's God's will for you. We're not freelancers. We're not lone rangers. It's a great gift we have here, but we have to put those roots down now so that when we're out there in the ministry, it's second nature and we want it. So what is God's will? What's the narrow gate? Again, I just encourage us to really continue to put the roots deep in both prayer and community life. Amen.